Hey guys, this is going to be a response video to what kind of DM am I? So let me think. What kind of DM am I? I run a game that is, I like to describe it as sandbox, but everyone seems to have a different opinion as to what sandbox truly is. Sandbox to me is not the players go wherever they want and do whatever they want. In my eyes, I allow my players to go and do things that they want to do, but if I didn't if I don't have a side adventure sitting there, or if I didn't write something up, there's a certain point where I will just tell them, hey guys, you're going in a direction that I don't have anything planned for. And unless I think that at that particular time I can ad lib a complete adventure, which I have done in the past, and it's been fine. But there are just times when I say, enough's enough. I mean, all the leads that I have given you have taken you in one direction, and then you decide that you want to rent a ship and cross the seas, which has nothing to do with anything that we were planning on doing. I think there has to be a certain amount of player responsibility to play the game that you created. Now, I love immersion and I love keeping, that going when I'm telling the story, but if your players are totally gonna, they say that DMs railroad the game. They can railroad the game, force you to travel on ties and go directly in the direction that you want the DM. Well, players can do the same thing. No matter how stringent I am with where they go, they can still decide to deviate from doing that, or they can just say I don't want to play. So I don't really. Yeah, so I mean, well, so basically that's my idea on what a sandbox is. So in my eyes, I run a sandbox game. My players have tons of freedom. They can interact with almost everything. I don't stop them. I don't blow them off if they decide to do something that is totally different from what I want them to do, or what I have planned them to do, I guess. I usually have, like everyone else, I have multiple plots running at the same time, and I usually have an overall main plot. And basically, when I start my campaign, I give my players, I let them know what the main, I give them. I like to use titles for chapters. I call them chapters in my game, and I like to give them main plots, ideas of what that's going to incorporate. One, it allows them to create characters that fit with it. So if I titled this campaign, um, the Undead Massacre, they can kind of put their characters, create characters around what they think that means. They could be totally off. Maybe there really aren't any undead. It was just a demon pretending that they're undead. But the point is that I give them hints as to what's going on, and maybe it's just particular to my players that they're really good and they understand that there has to be a certain there has to be a certain baseline when you're creating the story that they follow along. And I've never had a player, and I specifically asked them, does this bother you if we do this or that? And they don't seem to ever mind playing with my games. Um, so, I guess that's enough on the sandbox. As far as there's only two things you can do at my table that I know of that would really piss me off, and then I'd have to, uh, you know, smack their monkey ass. If you're disrespectful to the other people, you'll get a warning, and I'll just tell you right then, I'm not gonna mess around. If you're being disrespectful to the people around you, then you don't need to be playing the game. If you're having a hard day or something goes wrong in your life, and you just have that, that edge on your shoulder that you're gonna take it out on anyone, well, you know what? You maybe need to sit out this one game and go get yourself straight. You don't want to bring that into the game. And the other thing is cheating. If someone wants to cheat, I've had people try to cheat in my games before, and after they roll their 15 or 16, well, I don't know what it is with people saying, "Oh, I rolled an 18." It's like they seem to roll 18 all the time instead of they think that if you say 20 all the time, then that's going to change your opinion if they do a lower number, but. Luckily, I haven't really run into that very often, but there was this one kid when I was a lot younger, and he'd be like, "Oh, I rolled a 20, oh, I rolled a 19," and he would drop the die and pick it up really quickly. It was really funny, but I mean, whatever. I don't understand why someone would want to cheat at a game like this, anyways. It doesn't. There's no way to win. So yeah, oh yeah, great, you did more damage, but it doesn't really make any sense to me. So I'll kick people out of my table if they do that. Um, as far as I don't think that I run the middle ground for combat and storytelling. My players veer towards um, I would say they veer towards the combat more, and I veer towards the role playing more. So we've kind of had to hit this middle ground where I provide them the combat that they need, and they provide me the role playing. So it's got a little bit of a symbiosis there. I'm not. I mean, I don't know. I guess I don't even mind the combat sometimes. Yeah, I don't know. I guess for the way that my game plays, it works. Basically, I'm getting the stuff that I want, and my players are getting what they want. It does surprise me that they seem to be really good at the role playing aspect, but that's not what they really look forward to. They really like the battles and the facing off against hordes of armies, or almost to the point where sometimes they they always want the leadership feat to have huge followers, and they want to try to get armies to fight against other armies. So it actually devolves into this almost like a war game. They have so many troops fighting against other things, and over the years I've gotten good at managing those types of games and creating encounters that work well with that. But it's not always the type of game that I would. It's not the type of player I would be. Basically, I wouldn't be. That's not the type of player I would be. But as a GM, I understand that that's what my players really like, and I continue to create for them. I create for myself, but I create for them as well. Because I mean, without my players, I wouldn't be playing. I'd create these stories and maybe post them on YouTube for you guys to listen to, but that's not quite the same thing as playing the game. I, as a DM, as far as mechanics go, I don't. I am just as likely to get rid of a rule or not a rule, a roll as I would be if it keeps the story going. I dump a roll. I don't care. If I don't want the player to die at that particular time, I'll keep them alive. I have no problem as what I would call DM cheating, but it's DM cheating in favor of the players. As if I'm at a point, if we're in the point of the story where the player dying would cause the end of the story, well, hell, I'll jump in there and sacrifice some realism to keep them alive. I also find that the crunch of the game means probably very little to me. I stay with, I've played Dungeons and Dragons through all its incarnations, and I've played a sizable amount of other games as well, but it doesn't matter to me whether a mechanic is too much of a pain, or if I don't like it, I just take it out. If I think of something better, I put it in. That's just the type of DM I am. I have house rules that I just make up for my own games. Whether chances are they're not going to be, they might not even function the way people, would want them, but they work with my players. There are ways of creating a whole house rule that can be, basically it can be abused in some way. But usually when I create a house rule, I create it with my players, and all of us together don't abuse it. If someone did, one of the players would call them on it. If I had one player try to abuse it, they'll be like, "Dude, what are you doing? That's not how it's supposed to be used." So, basically, I'm lucky, I guess, that I have players that watch out for each other, making sure that they role play properly, or that they use the game crunch properly, that I don't have to be this awesome rules lawyer that just follows them around and makes sure they do everything right. As far as work goes, I put a lot of work into my campaign, into the stuff that I create, but I do it differently. Like, I think some people, they do up a huge amount of I have my world and all the cities and city states and stuff like that I want, that are going to be within the campaign, that I know of, that I assume they're going to go to. If they start heading in a direction that I haven't done, I'll just that weekend I'll make sure to create up more of that area. But for the most part, I create up I add the plot stimulus where it's needed. I create them up ahead of time, whether it's a bunch of NPCs that can give that information or it's the special encounters. And I keep those encounters separate. They're not, say, once they get to this hex on my map, that's the encounter they have to have. Basically, I write them up on the side and I keep them listed that when I want to insert them, when I feel that maybe the role playing that we've been doing in this one town is enough, and maybe they've exhausted interacting with all those NPCs, or maybe I'm just tired of dealing with those NPCs and I want something new. I will, you know, interject. I will place one of these other encounters in there, and then that'll help the players to move on to a different section. It also it gives the semblance of complete freeform movement because no matter where they are, I can add these encounters. I don't have to, obviously some are tailored more for cities, some are tailored for woods or whatever encounters, but for the most part I can just add them when I need them, when I feel that my players are ready to engage that encounter or to start that plot or to further along the main plot. So it allows me to really keep a semblance of that sandbox feel, to me anyways, as no matter which direction my players may go, I can just give them, I can have one of these other encounters bring them to the direction that I want them to go. And that works fairly well for me and my group. I think that's pretty much it. I could tell you some of the faults as a GM, which would be an extremely long list of that would just make people laugh. I hate speaking in front of people. I don't really have a good voice for it. I practice it a lot, but I just don't get it. It just doesn't work for me, which is fine. You have to, as long as I keep working at it. You would think after 30 years I'd be pretty good, but no. My role playing is okay. I don't have a problem creating characters or anything like that, though I do have I'm not as neat as I should be, and I always forget to write up my notes after the game, which is one of the worst things you can possibly do as a DM is not actually do a quick summary for yourself to let you know what mistakes you've made or what people you've added or what ad-lib characters that you've created. You should always kind of write them down, unless you're playing every day where you would remember, but I'm getting old, I don't remember anything anymore. So other faults that I might do is sometimes I think when I'm really tired, I tend to just, it brings my game down. It's hard for me to keep my energy up. We play on Sundays. We play from 3 to midnight usually, so we play long games. And sometimes the players will just bog me down. Like if we have a lot of combat that I'm not as into, but the players are into, so they're all full of energy, and I try to feed off that energy, but sometimes I just get bogged down with that, and I'm like, oh, wish this combat would end, and I'll just kind of end it a little bit earlier, giving them that fantastical destruction. Let them really kill the end the battle before it was really supposed to end. So besides that, I can't think of any other negatives that really pop out. I'm sure as soon as I stop doing this video, I'll think of more. But so I'd like to thank the Gentleman Gamer for putting this out there. Hopefully, you guys get an idea of what kind of GM I am. It's hard to, when you're listening to, I listen to everyone else's. I listen to Anders and Tabletop Titans. I listen to everyone else's, and I just don't want to make sure I'm not putting the same stuff out there that they put out there as far as what kind of DMs they are. As you tend to listen, you're like, oh yeah, I do that, or I do this, or so. Yeah. Thanks for listening, guys.